Hi guys, Josh here, and in this video, I'll be going over some useful information and tips you should know about honey and mushrooms in Story of Seasons Grand Bazaar. How to unlock all of the different varieties, the best ways to use them, how to make the most money. If you learned something new, leave a like on the video and let's begin. First, you will need to unlock beehives and mushroom logs, and for that, you will have to reach Bazaar rank 3 and complete a request for Arata in which he asks for 1 grilled fish and 1 egg over rice. Every Saturday after that, he will have his stall at the bazaar, where you can buy the beehives and mushroom logs, and each of these will be upgradable twice. We'll start with the beehives, and if you're not familiar with them yet, how it works is you place fully grown flowers in front of them, and after 4 days, each flower will generate 1 honeycomb that you can then harvest from the hive. If you plant flowers on different days, this might become difficult to keep track of, but you should know that honeycombs do not accumulate in the hives, meaning that if you wait 8 days instead of 4, you will miss out on an entire batch of honeycombs. So whenever you see that the beehives are sparkling, make sure to interact with them. You can then transform your honeycombs into honey using the blue windmill. That will increase their value drastically, and there's nothing you can really do with the raw honeycombs anyway. Now that we have the basics out of the way, let's get to the interesting part. There are different types of honey, and which one you get depends on the flowers that you use. Wild herbs and wildflowers will produce regular honey, which is the least valuable one. Then the flowers you grow on your farm, and more specifically the varieties you buy from Miguel, will create invigorating honey slightly better than the regular one. Next, once you have Ronaldo at the bazaar, which is at rank 4, he will be selling sunflower seeds in summer, chrysanthemum seeds in autumn, and cineraria seeds in winter. Once you've obtained those at least once from Ronaldo, you will then be able to place an order for them with Miguel at his store throughout the week. Nothing in spring, unfortunately, but for the rest of the year, these 3 types of flowers will give you mellow honey, which is even better than the invigorating honey. To keep it simple though, the only thing you really have to remember about the flowers is that the ones you usually buy from Miguel are the ones you need to craft the bouquets, and the ones you get from Ronaldo are the best for honey. There is one last type of honey we've not talked about yet, the most valuable royal honey. This one is not linked to any specific flower type. Instead, it is a bonus honey, and the higher the star quality of your flowers, the more of them you will have a chance of getting. For example, here I planted 54 chrysanthemums of a 3.5 star quality, and I got 54 mellow honeycombs, so 1 per flower, and then on top of that, 7 royal honeycombs. I then repeated the same test with 1.5 star chrysanthemums, and there I got still the same 54 mellow honeycombs, but only 1 royal one. So ideally, for the most profitable honey production, from summer through winter you should go for fields full of sunflowers, chrysanthemums or cinerarias with the highest star quality possible, and in spring you can go for the flowers that Miguel is selling. Some of these flowers can be valuable, and don't forget that as soon as a flower goes out of season, it will wilt. So on the 31st, you can harvest them and reuse them to make dyes, fragrances, use them as a gift, or sell them. Similarly, when there's a storm, if you don't have enough windscreens, you can take your flowers away and put them back after the storm. When you do that, however, you will lose any progress with your beehive. So if you were just 1 day away from being able to harvest the honey, whenever you put your flowers back, you will have to wait 4 days all over again. So depending on the timing and your priorities, in some cases it might be better to use the windscreens, in other cases it might be better to pick up the flowers. If you are trying to keep your honey as low maintenance as possible, maybe you don't have time or space to grow flowers, one viable option for you could be to go for wild herbs, and more specifically mint, as it stays in season all year round. You won't have to grow anything on your farm, you won't have to replace it at the end of the month. It is also quite easy and fast to level up, potentially getting you more royal honey. That being said, in the end, you will still be making mostly regular honey, so while it is the easier option, it won't be as profitable as if you are using other flowers. If you do end up with different types of honey, which will probably happen especially at the beginning of the game, one thing to consider is that for most, if not all cooking recipes, the type of honey doesn't matter, so it could be smart to just keep the regular honey for cooking and to sell the other ones. Before you sell them, however, keep in mind that the star quality of your honey makes a huge difference in its value, which is determined by the level of this nature sprite called honey. As tempting as it can be to just sell everything at the bazaar, giving most of it to honey is usually a much better long-term investment. One final thing before we move to the mushrooms: the more flowers you have in front of your beehives, the more bees will appear every day. If you jump carefully, you can actually catch those bees, and as you're probably aware, leveling up the bug's nature sprite takes a very long time, so I would recommend trying to catch those bees daily if you want to make the grind a bit easier. Now, let's talk about mushrooms. How it works is also very simple. Use a bag of spores on the logs, wait 3 days, harvest the mushrooms, put some new spores. Every harvest will give you 6 mushrooms, so you will want to grow the most valuable ones to maximize your profits. At first, you'll only be able to buy the Shimeji spores from Miguel. The other ones will eventually be sold by Ronaldo, obtained through various titles, or by completing requests for Kagetsu, whom I recommend befriending early. The only really tricky spore to get is for the matsutake mushroom, which is more valuable, and it can only be obtained through the lottery stall from Rich once you've reached Bazaar rank 5. Even though I've been pretty lucky getting the Sky Jewel and Power Berries from him, at the time of making this video, unfortunately I have yet to win a matsutake spore, but I do know for sure that you can get it from him. Depending on your luck, you might be needing a lot of metals, so make sure you dig up any mound of dirt you see with your hoe, and then using the purple wonderstone inside the blue windmill, you can combine metals with ores to upgrade them. The type of metal doesn't affect what you can win, but you need at least bronze metals, so make sure to upgrade all of your basic ones. And then if you're able to upgrade them more to silver or gold, you will need fewer of them to enter the lottery. After successfully growing your first matsutake mushrooms, do not forget to make your own spores out of them in the blue windmill, otherwise you will have to get them again from Rich. Just like honey, the quality of the mushrooms you harvest, whether they're wild mushrooms or growing on your logs, will depend on the level of this nature sprite called Webby. So as much as possible, before you start selling all of these mushrooms, give them to him. Mushrooms also have their equivalent to royal honey with the monarch mushroom. It works in a very similar way, so the monarch mushroom is a bonus item that you get in addition to whatever 6 mushrooms you would usually be harvesting. What's important to remember here is that the higher quality spores you're using, the higher your chance of getting that monarch mushroom. In this example here, I used 3 6.5 star morel spores. In total, I harvested 18 morels plus 2 monarch mushrooms, which are worth 10 times more than the morels. This makes a huge difference. For the longest time, I was making the mistake of buying all of my spores from Ronaldo, thinking it didn't matter that they were only 0.5 star, as my mushrooms would still be the same level as my nature sprite anyway. But when I started noticing how many monarch mushrooms I could get with better spores, and just how valuable they were, I realized it was much better to make my own. As for what to do with all of these mushrooms, monarchs are great to sell as they are, but the other ones will gain value if they're cooked. What is best will vary depending on your trends and what other ingredients you have, but one dish I like to make is the Happy Mushroom Fry. It only requires 1 mushroom and 1 salt, and it is an easy way to consolidate all of the mushrooms into a single stack of items. There are also a few dishes using specific types of mushrooms. If you have the matsutake mushrooms, you might be better off cooking something like the matsutake rice. But remember that you can always look at the encyclopedia on your bookshelf if you want to compare the base value of items, so a good habit is to double check that the value of your ingredients combined is not higher than whatever you're making. But that is pretty much everything you need to know about mushrooms and honey in Story of Seasons Grand Bazaar. They are fairly passive ways of making money, so start working on them as soon as you can. Let me know if I forgot something or if you'd like to add any information of your own. If you'd like to learn more, I have a playlist of tips and tricks videos for this game. Feel free to check that out, leave a like and subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you all in the next video.